For this procedure, I apply anesthesia for about 20 minutes to reduce any discomfort. This client already underwent one laser tattoo removal procedure, which left her with reddish eyebrows, and we already did one non-laser tattoo removal with me. I first applied the remover on the skin with a micro brush, and then I proceed with the regular PMU machine and a 5RS needle to open the skin very gently, working only on the epidermis. The procedure is basically painless. The clients describe it as a mild scratching or slight burning, but overall is very bearable. I work on the skin in all directions because I want to make sure I break the epidermis correctly in all spots where the pigment is present, and also that will allow the product to penetrate the skin. The proper skin stretch is very important, just like during regular ombre powder brow procedure. Since the tail of the brow is much more sensitive than the front, that's why I start the procedure always from the front of the brow. After completing the first pass, I go over the same brow again really quickly just to make sure I open the epidermis correctly. After finishing working on the first brow, I clean the product very well so it will not keep penetrating into the skin, and I move to the second brow and do exactly the same thing I did on the first one. So what I'm doing here is disinfecting the brow again with alcohol wipe. I do it in the beginning before I apply anesthesia, but I also like to do it afterwards just to make sure that everything is super clean. And I just take a photo because we always want to document the before, during, and after, to have a record of the reaction of the skin as well as the skin condition. So it's also very important to document every step of the procedure each time. And again, I'm rubbing the product in the skin, and then I start working with the needle to open the epidermis very gently and superficially and allow the product to penetrate the skin. Again, the proper skin stretch is very important, just as you stretch the skin during the regular ombre powder brow procedure. The choice of the needle really depends on the client's skin, and every case is different. In this case, I decided to use 5RS because she has a very thin, sensitive, and mature skin. Again, I apply a little bit of product on the skin because we are not allowed to work on dry skin. The skin has to be moist with the product at all times. I work with low speed machine, as well as my hand movement is slow and steady. Again, I go over the same brow really quickly, maybe changing the direction a little bit just to make sure I open the epidermis correctly. After the first pass, we can already see a reaction on the skin with the product, which is great. That means the procedure is working. After I finish working on both brows, I wrap the remover into the skin and let it sit for 5 minutes to do its job. I always check the skin condition to make sure everything is proceeding correctly. And I take some photos of the reaction. We can already notice pigment exiting the skin. I apply a secondary numbing after the first pass for a couple of minutes to make sure I reduce any discomfort. I proceed with the second pass, which is completely different tool that I'm going to use. I'm going to use a manual tool and a flat needle to remove the epidermis, only the superficial part of it. Again, I wrap the product in the skin and then use the manual tool to very, very gently remove the epidermis. The epidermis is like a barrier for the pigment, so it's very, very important to remove it correctly during the procedure for better results. If the epidermis is not removed properly, the pigment has nowhere to go. So again, it's very important to remove it, but you have to work very, very gentle, only on the surface of the skin, without going too deep, which might cause scarring. Again, when I finish working on the first brow, I clean the product and move to the second brow. Try to be as comfortable as possible, making sure that you stretch the skin properly. It's very important to stretch the skin. I am not using any additional pressure. I am just combing the skin, brushing the skin with the needle very, very superficially. I apply the product on the skin again and let it sit for 5 minutes. This procedure is basically painless. It's just very mild stinging sensation or a little burning when I apply the product, but I wouldn't say it's more painful than a regular 𝗠𝗶hi𝗶 procedure, especially because I'm very light-handed. So if you are light-handed, your client should not feel any discomfort. Always check with your client how they are feeling. If they're feeling a lot of pain, just lighten your pressure or apply more anesthesia, but overall they should not feel too much pain. After the second pass, we can definitely see even more pigment coming out. The product already caused the reaction in the skin, so I like to document everything and take pictures of each face for the record. Check the skin condition again, make sure everything is fine. Look, so much pigment coming out. And also at this stage, I always like to let the client know that I'm not going to use any more needles, and I am going to use a micro brush for our last pass. So for our last pass, I am not going to use any needle. I make sure I clean everything, and I'm just going to remove the rest of the epidermis with a micro brush, very gently, always applying the product on the skin. We are not allowed to work on dry skin. The skin always have to be moist with the product. So I rub the micro brush very gently on each side to make sure I remove the epidermis correctly, and I leave the product again for another 5 minutes. The remover is causing a reaction in the skin, and it's pushing the pigment out. Always make sure you are checking the skin condition, and in the last pass there might also be a lot of lymph coming out, so just wipe it off your client's skin. This reaction is great. I love it. The procedure has been done correctly, and we are just waiting for the last minutes to elapse to clean everything and neutralize. At the end, I just like to double check if the epidermis has been removed correctly in all the areas and rub a little bit in the areas where it seems like it's still there, just to make sure it has been removed correctly in the entire brow area. When I finish, I clean the brow very well in all direction. I want to make sure no product residue stay on the brow hairs or nowhere on the area before I apply the neutralizer, which is a very important step. I really go over the area many times to make sure I definitely removed any residue of the product before I apply neutralizer. After cleaning the brows very well, I apply a drop of neutralizer on each side and rub it onto the skin for 20 seconds with a gentle massage, and then let it sit for a couple of minutes. This step is extremely important as the neutralizer blocks the penetration of the remover and it brings the pH of the skin back to its normal position, and it secures that our procedure is done completely safely. At the end of the procedure, I explain the aftercare to the client and also provide the cream and the special aftercare wipes. I want to make sure they take care of their brows properly to ensure quick and efficient recovery. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more tutorials for ombre powder brows and non-laser tattoo removal. Stay tuned.